What's going on, everyone? So yesterday I talked about the report that came out about what the Pistons are seeking in a trade for Bojan Bogdanovic and how several teams are interested. This was part of the report. At this juncture, the Pistons are seeking at least one first rounder and either a young player with upside or additional draft capital, sources said. Plus, Cleveland has the company in Dallas, Phoenix, and the Lakers, among other teams in pursuit of Bojan Bogdanovic. Another team of note was the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, in that video, I'll even link that video down in the description below. I go in a little more detail and go over a little bit more what was said, as well as maybe the potential of including say, Lonnie Walker, who's a young player that we very likely aren't going to be able to keep beyond this season. Kind of like the Malik Monk situation, a young guy who believes he's better than what he's been perceived, goes to the Lakers, gets the big bright spotlight shined on him. He steps up to the plate. He's likely going to earn a contract. So I imagine it's going to be tough for the Lakers to keep him. But we also got this report, and this report says that the Pistons are keeping the price high, but they are listening to trade offers for Bojan Bogdanovic. Lakers Mavs interested in this report, and this was from NBC Sports. And they also go on to relay that, the Pistons are taking and fielding offers, that they have their asking price high, but they're not against the price dropping, that the price very likely could drop, maybe even drastically drop, which makes a lot of sense, right? Bojan Bogdanovic is an excellent talent. He's having a great season, nearly 50, 40, 90. He's putting up 21 points per game, and he's doing it on like 42, 43% three-point shooting. Absolute lights out. He would be a perfect complement on any contender, especially the Lakers. The Lakers could use him desperately to open the floor, open the paint. I mean, imagine how good Russ and like LeBron are at getting to the rim and various other guys. Imagine if you had a guy like Bojan Bogdanovic, who is a real threat consistently night in and night out shooting. And he's a guy that doesn't need a ton of volume in order to score, right? He can score and get you 20 on 15 shots, 10 shots, rather than, some other guy that if they get you 20, they're probably taking 18, 20 shots to get to that 20. So Bojan could be very efficient, very effective, and the amount of looks he would get on a team that's a contender, especially the Lakers with LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, but any contender, the looks he's going to get, you imagine that his production is only going to get better, right? Because right now he is like the one scoring threat and the leading scorer for the Detroit Pistons. Teams are really honing in defensively on him. Teams are double teaming him, everything. Still able to get a shot off. He's still able to create. He's still able to knock down shots when he gets the opportunity. So this would be a very welcomed piece to the Lakers and any team that would be a contender. But we saw with the Utah Jazz, they wanted a first-round pick for Bojan Bogdanovic. Now, teams at the time were worried about a few things. One, age, which is still a concern, still an issue. But also, many teams, including the Lakers, were hesitant to make a deal because they thought Bojan Bogdanovic would want a long-term deal. Something, 4 years, $100 million, something like that. And Detroit ended up signing him to an extension to a very reasonable deal, roughly the same amount of money he's making now for 2 more years. So team like the Lakers, for example, he fits the timeline perfectly, right? His contract lasts as long as basically everybody on the Lakers. That's LeBron James, Anthony Davis. So his money would fall off at the point when LeBron and all those things, so they can make a decision. Lakers could open up cap space. You deal with that once the road actually opens up, right? And so that was a big concern. And then just the overprice. Like, how is his production going to be this season, which we've seen is great. And, there's the concern with his age. Is he going to start falling off? But he is a guy that doesn't rely on athleticism, right? He's not a crazy athletic player. He's more of just a skilled sharpshooter. He can create his own shot a little bit. Defensively, he is a bit of a liability, but he's not as bad as his reputation is. I mean, people forget that him and Joe Ingles were like the two wing players for the Utah Jazz for several seasons, and Utah was one of the better teams. And it's because they had a guy like Rudy Gobert who he could just funnel the offensive player to. Well, we have Anthony Davis. So he's really good at funneling and just kind of, being a deterrent to lead into Anthony Davis. That would be brilliant. And I do believe that he can help with the Lakers rebounding and also just defensively. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a big body, right? I would rather have him running out on closeouts with his wingspan and height rather than, a 6'1" Patrick Beverley and a guy that's 6'8" just doesn't even see him in his view when he's elevating and lifting up. So it's a big difference in that regard as well. And so now that the Pistons have him locked in for the next 2 seasons, one, it does cause some problems, right? Because the Pistons, if we're being honest, the Pistons don't have to drop their asking price. They have plenty of cap space. They have, a very young team that could use a veteran presence like Bojan Bogdanovic, which Detroit has said that they value him. Like, they value him as a vet on this team and that they do want to keep him long term. So they're not just going to give him away. And that's a big thing. Utah, they were like, everyone knew Bojan's gone. They're blowing it up. It was just a very different circumstance in Utah as opposed to what's going on in Detroit. And a lot of the questions and concerns that teams had all got answered between then and now. So Detroit is in a much, much better position as far as like leverage for Bojan Bogdanovic. But I still believe the asking price is too high, right? Now, I don't mind if we had to give up Walker, right? Like, let's say we could do, say Walker, Patrick Beverley, and say a protected first. I would do that, right? And yes, it would suck losing Lonnie Walker. I'm a big fan of Lonnie Walker. I love what he's done this year, but in reality, unless he's willing to take $7.7 million, which is the non-bird rights, then we're probably going to lose him. There's going to be some team that is going to pay him some money and throw him some money, at least more than we could probably pay him or want to pay him, right? Because we only have about 30 to 32 million in cap space. Are we really giving half of our cap space to Lonnie Walker? Probably not, right? So another team, if they offer him 15 million a year, he's probably going to take that. And we're probably not going to match that because we have many other pressing needs that are bigger than Lonnie Walker. And so Bojan, one, solves a lot of those problems. Two, you still have other moves that you can make. And three, he's going to give you more production and is a better need right now for the Lakers than what Lonnie is. And so I believe that if the Lakers have the opportunity to get a deal done for Bojan Bogdanovic, I think you do it. The one thing that the Lakers have that many other teams don't have, especially contenders, is the assets and expiring deals, right? Like Patrick Beverley expiring, Lonnie Walker expiring, but he's a young player that they probably re-sign, right? That would be the idea, with a young player with upside, something like that. Ideally, if you could do like Patrick Beverley, Lonnie Walker in like 2 seconds, that's a home run. Like if you could do something like that, smack that out of the park. But how much do they value Lonnie Walker? That's another question. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. We'll see. Maybe that is something that is actually on the table. Maybe they, instead of gambling on a 25th pick in the draft, because it's nothing but contenders that want Bojan Bogdanovic, they look at it as, hey, let's get a proven, 23-year-old Lonnie Walker who basically we'd be hoping to get a guy like that with one of like the Suns picks or the Mavericks pick or whatever, right? So that could be something that the Lakers could kind of use as leverage to maybe not have to give up a first round pick. That would be kind of nice, right? Like imagine if you could keep both first, you give Patrick Beverley and Patrick Beverley and Lonnie Walker. Get Bojan Bogdanovic. You still have Kendrick Nunn, Damian Jones, JTA. You still have Russell Westbrook if there is that home run deal that you need, and you have both first. That is something that could be explored. I hope, Rob Pelinka's like, hey, if you want a young talent, a young player, we got a guy. I've seen people throw out Max Christie. You can't trade Max Christie. He's 19 years old, and he's probably already our best on-ball defender on our team. And the potential that kid has, you can see it, right? He already has a good-looking shot. He's just got to get the confidence. If he gets the confidence, that kid could be scary. Like his shooting, he's already got an NBA defense, and he hasn't even gotten his grown man body yet. Just wait till he develops into his his NBA body, and once he does, like that guy might be great, like Ron Artest, Tony Allen type, good defensively. So I just don't think you can give him up. Lonnie Walker might be an enticing piece that you can kind of dangle. Bojan Bogdanovic is also more of a win now piece, right? He's a guy that the idea is you get him now, and now you're basically going all in. You got him, you got Russ, you got LeBron James, you got Anthony Davis. Those four are probably enough to make you really good. But even if it doesn't work out this year, you have the next 2 years to try to win a championship or two. The idea is to win multiple championships, and you'd still have some flexibility in the offseason if you wanted to. You'd still have roughly, 11 to 13 million in cap space. On top of that, you'd still have your biannual. You'd still have, your mid-level, all of those things to kind of round out your roster better for this Lakers team. So I think if you're the Lakers, you got to get the deal done for Bojan Bogdanovic personally, as long as the asking price isn't astronomical, right? If it's an unprotected first, it's Lonnie Walker and like a second or something, it's really hard to buy into that, to justify that type of deal, right? Like, it's really hard. Now, granted, if you did that and let's say you win, right? Like, let's say the Lakers, even if they don't win this year, right? Like, let's say next year they win the championship, and then it was worth it, right? Because even the next 10 years, you might not win another championship, right? So if that ends up happening, then in hindsight, so it would be a move that I don't think you can really judge until you get the end result, until the contract's up. But it is something that it would look kind of bad if you're the Lakers. But again, having those expiring deals is not something that many other teams have. And again, I mentioned earlier how the Pistons, they have like 50 million in cap space regardless, but they don't want to just take on long-term salaries just to take on long-term salaries. And is the Phoenix Suns, are they going to give up like a Cam Johnson? Maybe. Phoenix is a sinking ship right now, right? So maybe they panic and they give up like Cam Johnson in a first. If that happens, then the Lakers are done, right? I mean, if you're Detroit, you take that immediately, right? No questions asked, no nothing. You get your young 3-and-D wing type player that has potential and growth. Yeah, he's 26, but I mean, he's still not even in his prime yet. Like, that's a guy that could be really good for that team going forward. So yeah, if something like that happens, then you do it. But I don't think that the Phoenix Suns would do that. They were hesitant to throw him into the Kevin Durant deal based on reports and like rumors, because that deal never ended up happening. But there were a lot of talks of that they didn't really want to give up Cam Johnson. So they're not willing to include Cam Johnson in a potential KD trade. I don't know if they're going to give up Cam Johnson in a Bojan Bogdanovic trade, but you never know. Again, circumstances are circumstances, right? You don't have Devin Booker. You could use the scoring. If you get Bojan Bogdanovic, you're probably back to being the best team in the West. So that could be something that they really look at and go, okay, like, we need to make this move. We need to make this deal. And if that happens, then the Lakers they're out of it. You're not going to be able to compete with something like that. But if it's kind of like, hey, you can get a potential lottery pick down the road, or you can get, a top 20 to 30 pick, right? Like, I think either they'll just decide to keep Bojan, or they'll say, let's roll the dice with the Lakers trade. So those are kind of my thoughts, but I thought it was interesting. And I do imagine if we get closer to the trade deadline, I do think the price drops. I don't think it's going to be, a first and a young player. I think it'll be either or. We either want a young player that we like and believe in, or we want an unprotected first. And in that case, if that ends up happening, then if you're the Lakers, I think you offer up Lonnie Walker, right? You say, hey, we'll give you Lonnie Walker, young kid, come in. You've already seen what he's been able to do. He's been averaging, 16 a game with us, guarding the best player on the other team every night. And, Skywalker, and he's still a kid who has tons of growth. He's actually been a pretty solid three-point shooter this year. He's only going to improve. He's only going to get better. He's a young guy that you can have for the long haul. You give him a reasonable contract. He's probably not going to cost that much money. And there you go. He's not going to cost more than what you're paying Bojan right now. You probably get him for less. So you get that. Everyone's happy. It's a win-win. It's more for a team like Detroit, who's in a position of they're rebuilding. They're trying to get as much young talent as possible. And the Lakers, they're a team that's trying to get back into contention, and Bojan kind of fits that mold. But we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. Again, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Love your thoughts and opinions. Let me know however you feel about it down in the comment section below.